Hey, welcome to the Resolve Podcast, episode number 56. I'm Carly Tizano, a New Year's resolution coach obsessed with all things goal setting, personal development, coaching, and of course, resolutions. One of my biggest goals is to help you reach yours. I'm here to provide the tools, support, and inspiration you need to reach your goals this year and every year, and to feel supported every day along the way. Today, we are diving into a topic that is very near and dear to my heart. I have been an avid journaler for well over the last decade, and it is a habit and practice that I have not been able to shake, and I'm actually very glad of that because, as you're going to hear in this episode, journaling is a very powerful tool, and not only can it help us achieve the things that we want, which is pretty exciting, but it in and of itself is incredibly rewarding in a variety of different ways. So I am very excited today to have on with us a journaling expert. Our guest today is Karla Carlston. Karla Carlston is a wife, mom, and entrepreneur holding it together with a lot of grace and self-compassion. After having her second baby, Karla found herself in the thick of postpartum depression and anxiety. She realized that postpartum mental health support was difficult to find and found herself seeking community and support. She began sharing her story with friends and family and desiring a way to help moms support their mental health. She created Jot Journals with that need in mind and then expanded it to a line of prompted journals for all ages. Karla is on a mission to teach the benefits of journaling, normalize mental health, and empower people of all ages to leave a legacy of healing through journal writing. I am so excited to dive into all of that with Karla on the podcast today. And so, without further ado, here is my interview with Karla Carlston. Karla, thank you so much for coming to share on the podcast today.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Well, before we really dive into our topic today, can you share a little bit about you and everything that led you to where you are today?
Yeah, so my name's Karla Carlston, and I'm a mom of 3. I used to be a first grade teacher, and now I'm stay-at-home mom slash entrepreneur. And I really struggled with postpartum depression in different forms after each one of my kids, even during one of my pregnancies. And so
Mm.
I just have this passion for supporting mental health and speaking about it and not feeling the shame that surrounds it. And so when my second baby was like 6 weeks old, or maybe he was a little bit older, but I started realizing that I was having postpartum depression symptoms and I thought I was in the clear and I realized quickly I wasn't and I needed help. And so I started seeing my doctor and talking with him, but I also just kind of was brainstorming like, what can I do to support my mental health? And one night during a 3 a.m. nursing session, I remember just sitting up feeling really alone and just really isolated and thinking like, man, I have to do all of this again tomorrow. And this is what I've dreamt about my whole life,
Mhm.
but it's really hard, way harder than I ever imagined and way lonelier too. And
Mm.
I started thinking like, "Okay, what are some things?" Like, I love to journal. I never have time to journal because 'cause I'm just so busy. I've got 2 kids, 2 and under at that point. It was just a lot. And so I started, like, brainstorming ideas for prompts that I could
Mm.
do as frequently as I wanted, but, like, phrases that the prompts would be that would easily stick in my mind
Mm.
and help me kind of create this more positive mindset. So I wrote down, like, highs and lows and magic moments. I could write down, like, the cute things my kids say and then I also wanted to acknowledge the hard moments in each day too. So I made sure I wrote down, like, challenges I was having and
Mm.
just allowing myself to realize, like, it's okay. Not every day has to be perfect and to feel perfect. And so that's kind of how this business came to be. And it just really blossomed into this incredible business, but also this incredible community of
Mm.
women being like, yes, I need a place to feel heard too. And thank you for providing a place where we can feel heard and uplifted through that.
Yeah. What was the moment along the way when you realized I want to take this and expand it beyond just a personal practice? Like this is something that other people need to and wanting to create that larger community.
It was in that moment
Really?
nursing that
Wow.
baby. I was scrolling Instagram trying to stay awake and just like alert. And I just all of it kind of came at once. And so I got off
Wow.
Instagram and I pulled up my notes tab because I remember having the thought of I feel so lonely, but then the next thought was I cannot be the only one feeling this way. I
Mm-hmm.
There's no way I'm the only woman sitting up regardless of if she has children or what doesn't matter. Like I can't be the only woman struggling with my mental health. And I think that we need to remind each other that we're not alone. And so that's kind of what sparked it. And so I started jotting down ideas for a company name, and that's how Jot kind of came to be.
Uh-huh.
Because I thought it needs to be something that's quick and people know this can fit into my busy lifestyle.
Mm.
And so that's how that came to be.
And going back even further in your life, is journaling
Yeah.
something you've always done since you were a kid, or how did you initially get into journaling?
Yeah, from as long as I can remember, once I learned to write, I had a
Mm.
notebook with me, and I was like my family's big into board games, and we would all get together, big extended family at grandma's house, and I would be the one waiting for my turn, and I would pull out my notebook and just start writing. I
Oh.
wrote poems and short stories and thoughts and feelings, and everyone always made fun of me because I'd either be a book that I pulled out or a notepad waiting for my turn for, like, Monopoly or whatever. And so I just was always writing. And I do have notebooks filled with like my college years and my high school
Mm.
years. And I wasn't very consistent, but it's fun to look back, kind of fun and kind of embarrassing
Oh, yeah.
to look back because it's all about boys, you know. But yeah, it's just something that I've always felt safety in writing. And I just feel like I can really get more in touch with myself when I write.
That's beautiful. Well, and so that would be a way kind of that your relationship with journaling has really endured, being able to express yourself on paper and
Yeah.
process thoughts that way. Are there any ways that your relationship with journaling has changed? It's probably much less about boys now.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's much less about that, and so I feel like my relationship with journaling has was kind of always a place to, like, vent, and I always
Mm.
viewed it as a place like, "Okay, I need to journal. I'm really feeling a lot of, like,
Mm, mhm.
anxiety in my chest. I need to journal." And it's changed now that I've launched this business as it doesn't just have to be when you are stressed, because I would go back and read my journals and be like, "Gosh, what was, like, good happening in my
Right.
life," you know?
Mm,
And I feel like I would glaze over those moments and really focus on the hard,
mm.
which there's nothing wrong with that. It's a great tool to release all that negative, then built up energy. But I also really feel like it's changed where I really can focus on the positive as well as the negative, and I can get the whole picture all in one sitting.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's such a great externalization, like of whatever it is
Yeah.
you're feeling. But I love what you mentioned too. The way you've kind of designed the prompts that you work around, it allows you to incorporate both, like what's hard and difficult, and what are those big emotions that I'm processing, and what is good and joyful. Because you're right, we don't want to look back just like on all the negative times in our life and the things that were hard and difficult. And sometimes that's good because we can see how far we've
Yeah.
come and remember those difficult times and kind of empathize with our past selves for what she went through. But you're right. We also want to look back on the happy times and how we even realized then that we'd grown and the cute things that your kids said today. So
Yeah.
it is beautiful to have both of those things externalized in journaling. Yeah. Okay. And then is keeping a diary different than journaling to you, or are they the same thing? I just have to know.
Yeah, I wondered about that too. I've researched a lot about journaling and I've asked like Google what the difference is, you know, between a diary. And basically, what I've realized and learned is that it's just a diary is something you go to every single day and you're kind of just like the dear diary, this happened today, this and that. And
Hmm.
for me, journaling is more, you know, it could be every day, it can be more whatever works for you, but it's also just a place to not just like document the day to day, but the feelings that go with it as
Hmm.
well. So, I don't know that there's a huge difference, but that's kind of what I've discovered. I think
Mm,
it's also just depends on what you wanna call it. To me, a diary always seems more, like, secretive, you
right.
know,
Hidden under the
right? Like the
pillow.
lock.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, but so I don't know that there's a huge difference, but that's kind of what I figured.
Well, that's a helpful distinction because my next question has to do with what people actually journal about. So if we kind of take that categorization, we say like the diary is where you record what you do every day, which is fine. If you
Mhm.
want to do that with your time, then do that. But in the concept of journaling, most people sit down to journal. What is it that they're writing about?
Yeah, typically, it's the deeper thoughts that you keep all locked inside.
Okay.
Right? Like, the
Mm,
feelings that sometimes you don't even know what you're, like, coming out until, like, you put pen to paper. That happens to me a lot, where I will just start writing, and it's almost like I start writing, like, "This has been going on," and then all the underneath hidden feelings just pour out. So I just think I feel that a journal is just a lot more in-depth look into yourself on paper.
that is a really interesting way to look at it. I know that there's generally for me, like I'll hit a certain point where like things kind of start to come together if I write long enough. And it's normally like a page and a half. If I've written like a page and a half, things start to click and I'm like, oh, that goes back to that. So have you noticed that? Is there like an ideal amount of time or space or lines that you like to get out? Or is it just whatever you have time for?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know that I've thought of an ideal amount of time. I like to tell people like 10 to 15 minutes is a
Mm-hmm.
good chunk. There's also another way to journal called like the morning pages.
Mm-hmm.
And they talk about like writing just 3 pages right when you get up in the morning and just like writing whatever comes out, you just keep writing it. And that's another great way if you're feeling like you've got a lot to unload, that's
Mm-hmm.
another great way to do that.
Yeah, that is great. I've never done morning pages personally, but I know a lot of people who really
Yeah.
swear by them.
Yeah, I haven't done it either, but I keep meaning to because I'm
Mm.
sure it will be so beneficial.
So, what is it? I have an idea, and it comes back to why I don't do morning pages. But what keeps most people from journaling? Like journaling regularly or journaling at all? Because it's something that I think most people would like to do. They want to have that record of
Yeah,
their life and externalize their
yeah.
feelings, process through those things. So, what holds people back?
Yeah, that's a great question, and that's I think over throughout my community, like building my Instagram community and talking to so many people, the 2 things that come to mind is they don't know what to write or they can't stay consistent. Those are the 2 things
Okay.
every single person that has been like, "Ah, I really wanna journal, but I can't stay consistent," or "I just don't know what to write. I don't
Mm.
know what I'm supposed to write about," which is where the prompts came from, right? That's
Yeah.
to help guide you. So,
I think those are the two big hurdles that we all face, like with
mhm.
whatever we're working on. Like we can't find the time or we don't know where to start. And so it's kind of nice that your journal at least answers one of those questions. So
Yeah.
what tips do you have to help people fill in that other gap of not being able to do it consistently or finding the time to sit down and fill out the great prompts that you have?
Yeah. So that's the hard part because it's all personal, right? Like it
Mhm.
really is based off of you and you're the only one who's going to actually be the one doing it.
Yeah.
But the tips that I give people for being consistent is to write a goal, like a specific and measurable goal related just to journaling. But before you even write the goal, it's important to go through your whole routine through the day and think of the 2 times in your day where you're most structured
Mm.
and it's most consistent. Like you do it every day. Every day I wake up, I brush my teeth. That's like the first couple things I do, right? And so I tell people like, okay, and think of like the part of your day that's the calmest too. So for
Mm.
me, the mornings are not calm. I've
Yeah.
got little kids like crying and needing breakfast. So that's not for me, that's not ideal unless I chose to wake up earlier, which just not happening right now. So I also thought, okay, like all day I'm doing stuff. It's not super structured. So not during the day, but at night, once I put my kids to bed, I put my kids to bed with my husband, and then he does kind of his own thing for a little bit. I help clean up the kitchen. And then that's like a trigger. So I tell people like find a trigger in your
Mm.
routine that you do every single time and then think of that trigger and then put journaling right after it. And
Mm.
so
That's
help
great.
build it into your
Mhm.
habit that you already know muscle memory wise. So I clean up the kitchen and then I have my journal in a visible place in my kitchen. So it's not like up in my bedroom, where I'm like going to be too lazy
Right.
to walk upstairs and get it. It's right nearby. When I finish that part of my routine, I grab my journal if I
Mhm.
want to journal. I don't force myself to journal. I don't want to associate like negative emotions with
Right.
it or like being forced. And so if I'm in the mood, then I grab my journal and I write. And if I'm not, then I just go sit with my husband and watch a show? So
Mm.
it's just kind of, but it's built right into my routine and it takes time, right? It takes time to build a habit.
Mhm.
But that has leaving it in somewhere visible and building it into your already set routine is really helpful.
Mm, yeah, those are all great tips. And I think the one about not forcing yourself is just as important too, especially I think when you're getting started. Like if you
Yeah.
really want to journal every day, even if it's like the one sentence journal that
Hmm.
people do, like you may get to that point where you're like, okay, I'm going to buckle down even the days I don't feel like it. Like I'm going to get my one sentence down there, kind of
Yeah.
like going to the gym. Like that's the goal you're working on. You're probably going to get to the point where you want to get to the gym every day or
Yeah.
however often. But at the beginning, you really do want to lean into, oh, I like this. I enjoy doing this. I'm doing this for a
Yeah.
reason. Because that's where you really start to build your momentum, I think.
Yeah. Totally.
And you posted a great reel the other day about an unexpected reason why journaling is so good for you that a lot of people don't really know. So I'm curious, what are some of those additional benefits besides getting those feelings out, processing, having these memories and mementos written down? What
Yeah.
are some of those more hidden or like less expected benefits?
Sure. Yeah, I've done a ton of research trying to just be knowledgeable about it,
Mhm.
and I've been shocked to see it on, like, medical websites about how important journaling is. Like, it can in that reel, I think it said that it can heal wounds fast. It can boost your immune system, so it strengthens your immune system and your immune cells. It can heal what is it? It, like, heals it can help with healing your liver function, or it's
Mm,
supporting your liver function. It can improve blood pressure. I mean, it has tons of memory support too, especially just like supporting your mental capacity, but also just supporting your memory function. It's Journaling is incredible. It boosts your mood. There were so many physical health benefits too. The liver one, oh, and I think it's something about your lungs. There were just a
mm.
few things where it was like, wow, I had no idea how good it could be for your body, your physical body, and your mental health. Both things, it
Yeah.
can help so, so much.
And it's so interesting because normally we tie that kind of benefit to something physical. Well, I need to go for a walk or go for a run or go to the gym to have the mental and physical benefits. But to realize like you can sit at your kitchen table, maybe with a
Yeah.
cup of your favorite tea and a journal and get a lot of the same benefits physically and emotionally. That's just so nice to have that other tool in our arsenal.
Yeah, and I think too, like, we live in such a tech savvy world and we're always on our phones or a device. So much is just being like shot at us all the time.
Yeah.
And so I always think of how nice it must be for our brain to just sit and allow our brain to just pour out whatever it is that we need to with no distractions, right? And
Yeah.
it's so much easier where I'm like, I don't want to journal. I'm just going to like scroll Instagram. So much easier. I get it. We've all been there where we just kind of want to numb out instead. But it really is beneficial for your body and your mind to just take that time of stillness and peace and just be still.
I know I think about that a lot during the day because I know on our phones we have the screen time app, but between
Yeah.
that and like staring at a computer doing work all day, staring at a TV when you're done with work at the evening, like
Yeah.
it's amazing how little of our time is actually spent living life, like engaging with people face to
Oh, I
face.
know.
I think like the longest time I probably spend off screens is like getting ready in the morning or driving somewhere. Because other than that, it's always an option or you're intentionally having to do something on a screen. And so it is amazing to kind of get into like physical contact with a book or a piece of paper and a
Yeah.
pen. And especially if all of those distractions are put aside to really engage like with your physical space and your physical body, putting physical words on physical paper, it is a really amazing experience in our modern world.
Yeah, I agree.
And I want to dive into some of your favorite journaling prompts for different moods or your favorite ones ever, ones you can do every day, ones that like you use more for reflection, like any and all of your favorite
Okay.
journaling prompts. I would love to hear.
Yeah, the first one that comes to mind is highs and lows. I do
Yeah.
that with my 5-year-old almost every
Mhm.
night, and it's just really interesting to sit down with myself or with her and just like, "Whoa, I didn't realize that was such a hard part of your day." And I think it's a great way to just reflect that you are a whole person and you have highs during your day and you have lows, and it's okay that you had both. And it's okay to acknowledge both. It doesn't just have to be like, "Oh, this happened and it was wonderful," and let's forget about the other stuff. It's important to write about it all. So that one is probably my favorite. And that one stemmed from college. I had the best college roommates. We're all still good friends to this day. And for a chunk of time, we sat down every night that we were all home and we would go through like each other's highs and lows because we were so busy with everything else that we felt like we didn't get to see each other during the week. And it was a fun way to just get to know what was going on in that person's
Yeah.
day and like how we could help them. And it just kind of became a practice that stuck with me. So when I created these journals, that was like the first one I knew had
Yeah.
to be in all the journals, the kid ones, the teen ones, and the adult ones.
That is such a good one too. And I imagine like the more regularly you do that, whether you wrote it down or not, just
Yeah.
processing through it, I bet you would really start to see patterns. Like when I
Oh,
engage
yeah.
with that person, it's always the low part of my day. Or when I see
That's
that
so
person, it's always
true.
a high. Or wow, I've really found food to be the high point of my day, like a lot of days recently. Or
Yeah.
just kind of really interesting things that you would not judge about yourself, but notice. I think that would be
Yeah.
really enlightening.
That's such a good point. Yeah, for sure. So there's that prompt. And then I love magic moments. That was another one that I just really love. And you don't have to have kids to make it, relatable to you. Like I just
Yeah.
did it as a mom. I was so drowning in like the laundry and the dishes and all of the things and the baby spit up and the diapers. And so I was
Mhm.
like, I need to like cherish these little moments because I know how fast this is going to go. And so I put in the magic moment section just to really help me like just focus on those sweet moments throughout the
Mhm.
day and things I didn't want to forget. And that one has been really popular with a lot of moms, which is so cute.
And that one's great too because it probably has you like looking to notice those things throughout the day to be like,
Oh,
"Oh, that's
yeah.
what I could put as my magic moment."
Yeah. And that's
Mm.
why I wanted the prompts to have like really quick, concise phrasing
Yeah.
So it would be easy to do just that. Oh, that's a magic moment. Got it. And then sometimes I don't have my journal nearby, but I'll just write it down in my phone. And then when I have time to journal later, then I just transfer it really quick.
And do you have any prompts that you use maybe more in kind of a long-term sense, like to assess where you are in life or where you want to go? Yes.
Yeah. Well, I have a couple. I have affirmations, which I just think is
Mm,
important
yeah.
too. And I feel like those are always evolving. Some of them stay consistent and some of them are evolving as I evolve and as I change, or based off of sometimes like they kind of coexist with the goals that I write for that
Yeah.
day too. And so I guess goals and affirmations would be those. And then I added in a prompt in like my most recent release of journals called Looking Forward to. And I really like that one because that one's kind of the same. It's always evolving, or sometimes it stays the same, but it just helps me to like press forward in my life, like to just keep going, keep the momentum going. Because I always have something that I can look forward to, no matter how big or small. That, yeah,
That's a great one. And I like the idea of affirmations too, because affirmations to me, at least, they kind of have two sides. Some of them are things like that you very firmly believe and you're like repeating them to yourself as a mantra. And then there's the affirmations that you kind of repeat, like, because you really want them to be true. So you're working on
yeah,
establishing and cultivating that belief. So that's such an important way, I think, to bring them into your consciousness to be like, what are those things I'm telling myself, both that I believe and that I want
yeah,
to believe, whether for now or kind of going forward as I work on those things that I want.
yeah, for sure.
Okay. And then you have your amazing journals. And then, of course, there's ones out there that are just like a bunch of lines. And then there's
Yeah.
bullet journals. How can people find the journal that is going to be the best fit for them? Or should they just get yours? Because I would
I
support
mean, I'm
that.
biased, but I also am a huge believer in finding the one that works for you,
Yeah.
right? I couldn't find one that worked for me, so I made my own. And then
Mhm.
it kind of just became this huge thing that I wasn't really planning on, but I'm so thankful for. But I love Promptly Journals. They're another really awesome company. And I will always recommend different companies because to me, it's not a competition. It's
Right.
just like, there's no one size fits all journal. And so I love mine and I think they're great, but I also know that maybe people don't want the same prompt every time they write. And so
Mhm.
Promptly is another awesome one because they have different prompts and they have different categories of journals. So they're great. There's like the one line a day journals, which are awesome. Or there's another podcast called 3 and 30. I don't know if you've heard of them,
Mhm.
but she's amazing. And she released a journal called the Flecks of Gold Journal. And it's like a 3-year journal. So it's like a one line a
Wow.
day for 3 years. So every year you'll get to look back and be like, oh, last year I wrote this and now I'm writing this. So
Mhm.
that's a really cool way too. There are so many out there. I know there's like a big life journal for kids. There's just some really cool ones. So it just depends. If you are the person who wants to write pages and pages, probably a blank journal is better for you. Or if you want different prompts every day, there's lots of journals like that. So when I was creating mine, and mine are unique because they're repetitive prompts. So it is the same set of prompts every time you write with the hope that those prompts really stick in your mind
Yeah.
and can be like part of your thought process throughout the day. So there's so many out there though.
Well, and prompts are particularly good if you are one of those people, like you mentioned, who your hurdle is like you don't know what to write, because then
Yeah.
having something that's blank is going to totally stall you out. You're not going to know what
Yeah,
to do. And I
for
think you're
sure.
right. It's so important to find even the ones that are right for our age and stage or our season of life. Cause
Mhm.
I've kept a bullet journal for years, just like to keep lists and stuff. And it's not
Yeah.
super fancy, but I kind of realized like it's a drag. I don't really enjoy filling it out, at least not lately. So I decided like next year, no bullet journal. I'm going to at least
Okay.
take a break, if not put it down forever. And it's been so freeing. And I'm like kind of looking forward to next year when I'm not having to bullet journal. And
Uh,
that's okay. It was great for a while, but this next season, it's not going to be it.
and that's such a good point that your seasons of life are gonna change and your preferences are gonna change and your
Mhm.
needs, and so, yeah, you just gotta find the kind that will work for you. I'm the kind that just loves, like, beautiful notebooks, and I know so many women are the same. Like, they're so pretty, but then they don't end up writing in them, and so that was kind of another reason why I hoped that prompts would be helpful. So they're pretty, but they have something to guide you on the inside.
Well, that's perfect because that was going to be my next question. All of your journals are just so beautiful. They're all
Thank
so
you.
unique. Everyone could find one that like they're just really
Yeah.
drawn to. Can you just share a little bit about what that process is like of choosing, designing,
Oh,
putting those
yeah.
covers out there?
Yeah. So originally, when I started this back in 2019, I just chose solid colors and they were beautiful, like gorgeous colors. But as I progressed, and I have a designer that does the interior pages for me, where I tell her exactly what I want and like how I want it, and she makes it all nice. And so she did that, and she tried to design like a print for one of my youth journals or the teenage journals, but it just wasn't quite right. Like it sold, it was fine, but it wasn't quite what I was looking for. And then I had a mom friend that we like hang out with our kids all the time, and she posted on her Instagram like some stories of just some watercolor she was doing one day.
Mm.
So cute. And I instantly reached out to her and I was like, Carly, you have got to, will you do this? Will you design a journal cover for me? And she was like, oh, are you sure
Oh,
you like it? And I was like, yes, please. And she has been incredible. And I love supporting her because she's a stay-at-home mom and she does this for fun. And then of course I pay her. And so it's just really fun for me to know that I'm supporting another mom, another woman, and it's something she loves and she's talented in.
mhm.
And so she has done, I think, maybe more than 8 covers for me
Did
now.
she do that peach one that you posted the other
Yes,
day?
that's
That
hand
was
watercolored. Yeah.
so beautiful.
Yeah, so she did the original, there's like a polka dot one, some floral, and the peaches, that those were all, she did them by watercolor and then she
Wow.
scanned them. Anyways, those are gorgeous. And then we switched to digital because she got like a nice iPad and was able to kind of switch it up. And so her digital ones are gorgeous too. So it's been really fun to just see what she comes up with. So I basically like search Google Images and I
Mm,
look for different ideas and patterns. I honestly search wallpaper. That
mm.
helps a lot, and then I never want to copy. So I just give her some different ideas. I'm like, let's tweak this shape, these colors, make it your own design. And she always does. And we just text back and forth or Marco Polo back and forth. Let's switch that. Let's fix this, tweak that. And then it's there and it's done. So
Yeah, they're all beautiful. All the listeners need to, at the very least, they need to go look at all of the beautiful covers because
thank
they are
you.
just stunning.
Thank you.
Okay, and then I want to move into the resolution round to talk a little bit
Sure.
about goals and goal setting and what that's like for you. So it sounds like you do set goals or resolutions. What's that process like for you?
Yeah, I wish I was better at it. And I feel like I always have different goals that I'm working on in my head. I'm just trying to get better about writing them down. So I
Mhm.
taught first grade and we would have to write specific goals and they always had to be specific and measurable. And so I've kind of applied that into my life, and that's what how goals should be. You can't just say, I want to go work out,
Right.
right? If you're doing a health goal, I'm going to go to the gym or I'm going to eat healthy. What does that mean? What does that look like? How many
Yeah.
times a week? Are you going to measure your food? Are you going to do this? So you have to get really into the nitty gritty of it for it to be more doable for you.
Mhm.
And that's been helpful for me. So I usually have a health goal that I'm working on, but I also know myself enough that I know that I will resist if I'm too, I don't even know what the right word is, but I will resist myself
Mm.
basically if I just put so much pressure on myself. And so I just have the goal of what I'm working towards, but I don't often give myself like an end date, at least for me personally. I know that works for lots of people, but for me, then I like freeze, if that
Mm.
makes sense.
Mhm.
So I think it's important to know yourself and know how and when you're going to resist that goal, because everyone, you start off strong, right? And then you hit like you get sick or you just kind of get bored with it. So it's important to kind of work in all those different factors. And then I also heard this recently about setting a goal or a habit is figuring out what it's going to look like on your worst day. And that was like huge for me, being like, oh, okay, so if I want to journal every day, as an example, which I've already figured out is not me. I like to
Yeah.
journal a couple times a week. But say that as an example, I want to journal every day at this time of day for this many minutes, right? So that's very specific, very measurable. But then what is that going to look like on my really hard day? Like
Mhm.
a really hard day where things just are awry and you haven't showered, all the things. And so that's when I would write like a backup goal almost, or like a worst day
Mm,
goal.
mhm.
And so on this day, I write one sentence, or I
Yeah.
write it in my phone, like give myself some grace.
Mhm.
So hopefully that helps.
It's really powerful, I think, to look at those obstacles because we know they're going to come. We can't
Yeah.
anticipate, especially if it's something like journaling, which I think a lot of people like have tried before and then
Yeah.
given up on. So like we know what the difficulties are going to be. And if it is something we want to do every day, or even if you're just like, I want to do this 3 nights a week, and now this is the night
Yeah.
you were going to do it, and the kid just threw a tantrum, but you still want to get around to doing it. What are
Yeah.
you going to do in that moment? What do you want to do? Do you want to say, I'm going to be kinder to myself and not make myself do that? Because that
Right.
is an option.
Hmm.
But in the grand scheme of things and in most areas of our life, that's probably not what we're going to want to choose.
Yeah.
So intentionally deciding otherwise, like how we are going to move through and keep taking action is so powerful.
Yeah, and just preparing your mind. I think that's really powerful. If you can write it out, that worst
Mhm.
day goal, then your mind's like, okay, like I know what to do if this happens.
Right, because otherwise the brain is like, "Oh, no, this thing happened that we totally knew was gonna happen, but it still feels so unexpected." So, like, we throw everything out the window, but
Yeah.
intentionally deciding, "No, this is the plan that my non-panicked or upset self came up with. We're gonna stick with that instead."
Yeah. Yeah.
What is a big goal or resolution that you've set and completed and that you're really proud of yourself for?
Oh, that's a good question. I've been thinking about that one. I think it's probably around my business
Yeah.
and getting to certain numbers or certain like products that I wanted to put out at a certain time. So, my first year in business, I had this vision in my head of I want a journal for adults, but then I want a journal for children and youth. And I did it all within the first year of
Mm,
launching. And it was a lot of work. And I wouldn't say that I wrote like a specific goal for it. I just had it in my head like I need to get these all out
yeah.
this year. And so I think I launched the adults in December and the children in February. And then the youth was, I think, that like summer or
Mm,
spring, somewhere around there. So it was kind of like boom.
yeah.
But that was my big goal was to get all of those out
Mm.
so that they were out in the world and then I could tweak covers and things as I went, as I launched more. So that was a goal that I was really proud of myself for accomplishing.
Yeah, I think that's great too because like you were talking about earlier, the first covers were plain, they were beautiful and you loved them, but they were plain. They didn't have designs.
Right.
And I think sometimes when we are starting a business or doing anything else, we can be like, well, I can't launch or put this out there until it's perfect or until I have
Yeah.
the covers that I'm going to want to have forever or until my website has been professionally copywritten or whatever it may
Right.
be. But especially, I think when you can tap into the energy you had there of, I want to get this out there. I want to help people, give them this resource.
Yeah.
That is such a powerful motivator, I think, and an easy way to kind of overcome all our hangups about it has to be perfect or better
Yeah.
before it is released. So that is awesome that you accomplished
Thanks.
that and definitely something to be proud of.
Thank you.
And what are you working on now?
Yeah, I'm like the middle of releasing right now. So you caught
Yeah.
me at a good time. So I started with these journals, the original journals, and it's called a perfect bound spine. So it's kind of like when you picture like a hardback book and it's not a spiral. And mine weren't hardback, but it's just got that straight spine. And then I switched to spiral because I just had the feeling, and a lot of people were like, I wish it could lay like fully flat. And I
Yeah.
totally get that. And so I saved that money and, we worked it out and because it's more expensive to do the spiral bound, but it's so worth it because they are beautiful. And then I thought recently, I was like, I wish I had kind of like a sample journal,
Mm,
because these ones are 220 pages, these journals. And so they're a lot, they'll last you a long time. But I kind of wanted one where people are like, I just want to try it out for a little bit, see if this is a good fit. And so I switched, not the adults yet, but I've done youth and then I'm picking up the childhood journals next week, which is so excited. But they're just like the saddle stitch where it's stapled,
mhm.
but like nice, it looks nice. And they're a lot less pages. And so it's just a really good opportunity to practice for I think it has 64 pages. So you cut that in half because they're repeating, 2 pages repeating. So 32 entries
Mm,
for the youth and the childhood. And I'm really excited about those. They're going to be awesome stocking stuffers, just like perfect little slip it in. They're going to be a lot less expensive than the spiral, right? Because it's
mhm.
different materials being used. And I just think that will be good because then people could buy them in like a pack, right? All the cute grandmas that like, oh, I want this for my grandkid and
Yeah.
they love it. But it adds up. And I totally get that. And a big mission of mine is to make things affordable because I know we're like shoved all the time. Buy this. Oh, look at this
Mhm.
cool deal. And I was so nervous to get into the entrepreneur industry because of that. Because I know what
Mm,
it's like to be the
right.
consumer of like, gosh, like she has this. I probably need that too. And
Mhm.
so I just wanted to make things affordable and reasonable. And so this is just another way of me doing that, like giving people like, here, try this for your kid. See if they like it. If they don't, like you didn't spend $23, you spent 12 or 10,
Yeah.
whatever it ends up being.
Well, and 32 entries is so great because it's like just a month. So you can even imagine like kids going to go stay with grandma for a month this summer. So she has that
Yeah.
so that they can document their month there. Or if you're doing a
Yeah.
month overseas, that's just such a perfect like bite-sized chunk. And even to say
Yeah.
like, I'm going to get my kids to journal every day this month to see if that's something we want to integrate into a family practice or
Yeah.
that's such a great size and a way to
Yeah.
like dip your toe in the water. So that's perfect.
Yeah, I'm excited about it. They're really cute covers too, so I'm excited.
And then every week on the podcast, we encourage listeners to resolve to consider something or experiment with something or take some action. So, what would you encourage listeners resolve to do?
Yeah, I would encourage you to pick one day a week that you can reflect, whether
Mm,
that's typing on your phone, finding a journal to write in, but just pick one day a week. Think of like your less busy day. Like Sunday's a really good day. People are with their families a lot, kind of more relaxed. So pick that day and then do what I said earlier, like going through kind of your routine for that day and finding your calmer time. And just one day a week, try journaling for one day a week for a month and just see what it does for you.
that's great. And that's another bite-sized chunk. I love it.
Yeah, I can do that.
Okay. And then we have some confetti questions, which are just for fun
Okay.
so we can get to know you a
Yeah.
little bit better. What time do you get up
I get up around 6:30.
with the little ones?
My little boy, my 3-year-old's my early riser
Always one. And when do you do your best work?
at night. I'm a big night owl.
Mhm.
And so a lot of yeah, which sucks when I have to wake up so early with
Right.
my kid, but yeah, I love working at night.
Does it compete at all with your journaling time at night, or you just like you can fit both in?
Yeah. So if I'm going to journal that night, I clean the kitchen, I journal, and I only journal for about 10 minutes. I usually don't go longer. And if I want to, I do, but I try and cap it at 10. And then I hang out with my husband, and he goes to bed really early because he wakes up really early.
Okay.
And then I stay up. Yeah.
What is the best piece of advice you've been given?
Oh, man. I think back to this bridal shower I was at, and it could be applied to anything in your life or any relationship, but she basically just said, what you allow is what will continue.
Mm.
And so she gave the example of, okay, so if you are always taking out the trash, then your like spouse might just believe, okay, that's what you do. Like you're the trash person. So it just was interesting. You can apply that to any
Yeah.
relationship or even to yourself. What you allow is what will continue. And you really do have the power in what you allow.
Mhm. Yeah. And with yourself, that's such an important perspective because it's so true.
Yeah.
What do you do to rest?
I wish I could
Yeah.
say I'm better at resting. I love to watch shows. So I will work and then I like have the worst habit of laying in bed and watching like even 10 minutes of a show. I just
Mm,
need like me
alone.
time
Yeah.
where I'm not working. I'm not trying to multitask. I'm just like, I can sit here for 10 minutes and watch a show. But I do that. I love to read. So that's a big one. Mostly right now, my life is like audiobooks because
Yeah.
I'm always doing stuff. But just, I love getting lost in a book.
Mhm.
That's a big one. And then just being out in the sunshine. Like I grew up in California. So laying by the beach or a pool, that's like my ideal. A book and the beach or the
Yeah.
pool is
I
my
love it.
ideal relaxation.
That sounds lovely, especially as we like start edging into fall and winter now.
I know.
What is your favorite beverage?
Diet Dr. Pepper with
Mm,
sugar-free peach and vanilla cream.
wow. Fancy. I love
Very
it.
specific, but
Yes. But a favorite.
yeah, it's a favorite.
And favorite TV show?
Well, I loved This Is Us. That was a big
Mhm.
one for me. Right now I'm watching Chicago Fire, and I love that. I love like anything, where they're rescuing people and
Yeah.
it's real life kind of scenarios. Yeah.
Okay. And what book has had the greatest impact on your life?
I last year read the book These Is My Words is
Mm.
what it's called. And that one, it was a journal entry book. Like it was from the perspective of a woman who wrote a journal entry all the time. And so you got to see her life through her journal. And I very highly recommend that book.
That's very cool. I used to read growing up all the like American Diary, Dear America books. So I've always loved the kind of journal entry
Yeah.
style. So I haven't
Yeah.
read one in years, but that sounds like a great one.
Yeah.
What are you currently reading?
I'm not, well, I guess I'm listening to Salt of the Sea. I love anything World War II, like
Okay.
realistic fiction, but I'm not like really getting into it. So I just finished, I think it was called All the Things We Cannot Say. That was another World War II, and I
Mm-hmm.
really loved that one. That was a really good book.
And what is a win that you're currently celebrating that we can toast with you?
Oh, I think the new journals that are coming
Yes.
out is probably my win. Like just getting them quickly and coming in before the holidays. So it's like perfect timing. That's a big win.
Yeah, that's very exciting. And then where can people go to find more information about you and your journals and all the amazing things you're doing?
Yeah, so you can go to jotjournals.com. Jotjournals.com is our website and feel free to shop on there or send me a message and I'll give you a discount. And you can find me at Jot_Journals on Instagram. That's where I mostly am.
Well, and you have so many great reels and posts and everything, so they should definitely follow you there too.
Yeah, I have fun on there. It's fun.
Well, thank you so much, Karla, for coming to share about your experience with journaling and how we can all journal more and better and make the most out of that practice that clearly has a lot of benefits for our mental and emotional and physical health. So thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. It's been so great.
And that's a wrap on my interview with Karla Carlston. I sincerely hope that you will take the resolve to from this message and that you will experiment with journaling, especially if it's not something that you've ever done before or have been able to stick with. Like we talked about today, you can make journaling be whatever it is you want it to be. And even down to the kind of journal that you use, when you find time to journal, what you want to journal about. There really is no right or wrong way to approach the practice. But I think it's impossible to deny that any or all of us want all of those benefits that Karla shared with us today, both physical and mentally, emotionally. All of those are things that I'm sure that we could benefit from. And in order to do that, all we have to do is put pen to paper and take some time for ourselves, express what we're thinking and feeling and experiencing. And Karla and I think would both attest just to the power that journaling has had in our lives. And we want to share that with you too, especially if it's not something that you have yet experimented with or incorporated into your life. So definitely check out Karla's journals, at the very least, the beautiful covers. And if you need a place to start, her products are just amazing. So check those out and start a journaling practice. Take that time to process your life and your feelings. And in so doing, it is inevitable that you will become more and more the person that you most want to be. And with that, thanks for tuning into the Resolve podcast. You can follow me on Instagram at Karla Tizano. I would love to connect with you. Don't forget to rate and review. It can really help other people find the show. And subscribe if you haven't already so that you don't miss another great episode next week. For the show notes or additional support in reaching your goals, check out karlytizano.com. Until next time, here's to all that lies ahead.